There he is, your Dr. Heineman.
Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
Can we start out with Nike?
We certainly can. And this is a really kind of strange occurrence, really. I think Kaepernick, I'm pronouncing that correctly, right?
Yes, Colin Kaepernick.
Kaepernick, yes. The Nike, it's kind of come back and bitten them, I think. Picking Kaepernick to be a sponsor for their Nike shoes, which apparently they sold a lot of Nike shoes and apparently hasn't hurt their sales in that respect. But Kaepernick's an idiot. And so when you got people like that, and a lot of the big stars, he's not the only one out there. I don't want to pick on him in particular, but he's made a real image for himself, of course, for insisting on refusing to stand for the flag and all that's in his, with his socks, which, what did his football socks say, cops are pigs or something like that?
Yeah, he also has pro-Castro type logos around.
Yes, well, good little communist there. That's great. So when you got a guy like that, who's your key, one of your key sponsors, then you're really kind of vulnerable to them coming around and doing all kinds of stupid things. And Kaepernick basically not pleased with the American flag on the shoes because, and of course this is an early version of the American flag, and because people owned slaves back when this flag was being used. Where does that leave anything before 1868 or thereabouts? I'd like to know. You take portraits of George Washington off the currency, or Andrew Jackson, or all these people owned slaves, and of course you take the Adamses and some of the people from New England and such, and I'm not certain of what, they may not have a slave or two, but I think they did not. But nonetheless, they are part of a land that allows slavery. So Mr. Kaepernick obviously would do away with any kind of images or emblems or historical symbols from that period. I mean, it's totally idiotic. And it besmirches, Brian, it besmirches America and its greatness. That's what it does, because we are a great country, and we have been a great country. And all those people down there in the Rio Grande trying to get across think we're a very great country, too.
Now, some of the conservatives have been making arguments such as Nike uses slave labor in places like China, and that the communist countries that people like Kaepernick don't object to also have slavery.
Yeah. Well, I think...
They have slavery now.
Yeah. I think it's a legitimate complaint against Nike if, in fact, they are using one form of servitude or such in their factories. That's fine. I don't have any problem with that at all. But to go out there and belittle the United States, I think that's a totally different thing. Well, in any case, it raises questions that I think other producers of goods of one sort or another, I think, are going to be kind of careful about. But it's a kind of a sign of the times, and again, I think the social media plays a really big role here. Kaepernick undoubtedly has a web page, who knows what else, and all his followers out there may or may not decide to buy Nike shoes. I don't know.
Now, the liberal argument I've seen on this is, how can you care about Nike sneaker logos when children are suffering at the border?
Yeah, well, maybe he cares about that too. I don't know.
Who, Kaepernick?
Yeah, I have no idea.
But that's the argument that I've seen from the left on this.
Yeah, well, and so their argument is what? You go ahead and sell Nike shoes with a historic...
The argument is, I guess, change the subject.
Oh, it's not an issue worth discussing or fighting about. Is that what you're saying?
Well, what they say is there's little kids suffering at these border detention centers and terrible things are happening there. Why do you care what Kaepernick thinks about sneakers?
Well, obviously I don't. But the Nike does. Well, and I guess I think other people do. But the point here is this is the kind of thing that it can come up again and again in the climate and the culture we're dealing with in 2019, 2020, whatever. So that's the sort of thing I think that we want to talk about. Yeah, no, I think we should treat those little kids as well as we can down on the border.
Can we talk about the border?
Well, we can. I don't know what much we can say here, but go ahead.
Okay, there's like three big border issues. Some Border Patrol agents, a group of them had a Facebook page where they were making mean, some say sick jokes about Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez. And Democrats like Senator Schumer are calling for the head of the Border Patrol office to be fired because of this.
Well, I don't know if you got that quite right. I did see something that where they're, I think these are retired border agents, right?
That I don't know. I heard Border Patrol. I didn't hear retired.
I thought they were retired agents, and they were circulating all kinds of sick jokes and racial nastiness, and that's unfortunate. But they're retired. I think they can do what they want. Certainly, if they were not retired, and they are not retired, then I think some sort of sanctions appropriate there. Again, the director of the Border Patrol can't be expected to follow all his people, and especially with the web and the use of the internet as it's done today. I mean, that's just asking too much. But certainly, if they are agents and this is what they're dealing with and this is their attitude, I think somebody's got to be speaking to them. Yeah.
Another big border issue, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez visited a border detention facility Monday in El Paso.
Yeah, well, did she come back?
What she came
She's
out
still
said
down there,
a couple
or
of things.
She come back, did she?
What's that?
Did she come back to New York, or is she still down there?
I don't know where she is right now.
Oh, I see.
But what she said was the Border Patrol agents were bullying to her, threatening both sexually and physically.
They were threatening her sexually?
That's what she said.
I mean, what kind of perverts you think we got in the Border Patrol there? My goodness.
And the Border Patrol agents say that AOC hollered and screamed in their faces, and they have video of this, and it's going to be released at some point.
Yeah. Well, again, the media looking for stories wherever they can find them, and she's very good at drumming up all kinds of incidents of one sort or another. So I guess we'll have to wait to see everything comes out, and frankly, I'm more interested in Nike shoes than what Cortez is doing on the border.
One big thing that came out of her visit. Ocasio-Cortez says that immigrants told her that the immigrants were drinking water out of toilets. She did not use the phrase Abu Ghraib, but kind of portrayed that kind of picture of a torture chamber situation. Now, others, like some sort of Hispanic American minister group, says they've been to that particular facility, and it's nothing like anything that AOC says. Yeah, well, she's, I assume, taking rumors and gossip and things of that sort and passing them on to get as much attention as she can. I don't know. We don't know. And I think what the key point here is that Congress and President Trump have now allocated, $4.5 billion to get down there and provide
better facilities. I think everybody agrees the facilities need work down there.
In other news, this is in many ways bigger news. President Trump went to South Korea and visited North Korea while he was there, crossed the demilitarized zone. Conservatives say Trump is reaching out to Kim Jong-un in a way that'll probably prevent a war. Liberals say that Trump gave an unnecessary photo op to an evil dictator.
Well, he gave a photo op to an evil dictator. Whether it's unnecessary or not is a totally different issue. I think Trump is very good at trying to break down formalized kinds of procedures and such here, and sometimes I think that maybe gets him in trouble. But he doesn't care. He just wants to shut this guy up and maybe shut him off. And he's done that pretty well, I think, so that all this missile threats and actually sending missiles out, most of which were duds, but nonetheless, the guy launched a number of missiles here, 3 or 4 years ago, I guess he was doing that. And it's all pretty much stopped. So I think Trump's view is, look, we can get this guy off on another agenda here. It's well worth doing anything I can here to hold him down. And so I think it's quite possible something fairly constructive is going to come out of this. He really has no much use for the some of these intelligence communities and certainly the State Department and
Trump.
Yeah, and their approaches to things, and he certainly shows that. Now I don't know, Mr. Pompeo and he seem to get along pretty well, but on the other hand, I think Bolton was pretty much opposed to this. But
Really?
Trump doesn't care. He's going to do what he thinks has to.
Why do you think Bolton would be opposed to
because
the trip?
he's a hawk, and this allows Kim Jong-un to gain credibility in the eyes of the world's greatest power, etc. Which is, of course, what Kim Jong-un wants. But on the other hand, Trump doesn't care. I mean, hey, let's see if we can get something worked out here.
Now, Tucker Carlson on the Fox News channel did a bunch of live broadcasts from Asia, and he was at the North Korea, South Korea border when Trump crossed it. And it was very interesting. Tucker, you didn't see a whole lot of clips of it, but you saw clips of the North Korean communist bodyguards. And Tucker talked about how they got pretty rough with some of the Americans, and the Secret Service were there instantly to put an end to it.
Well, what do you want me to do about that? I mean, so our Secret Service is protecting our people there.
Yeah, I just thought that was kind of an interesting point.
Well, you can imagine how the kind of ideology and propaganda that these Border Patrol from the North Korea have been subject to, and so I don't think they have any love for Americans. So who knows how things, what got started, etc. But
now, since going way back to 2015, 2016, they've wanted the Democrats have wanted to see Donald Trump's tax returns. What's the latest there?
Attempt to once again subpoena and demand that the Justice Department, other relevant entities have to turn over his previous income tax returns. And obviously this is going to go to the courts. And I think Trump is going to win on this. Congress has the precedent this would set, I think, would be really very bad. If you have to turn over your income tax and all your financial records previous to your running for and becoming president, there are a lot of very able people out there that are going to say, "Hey, forget it. I'm not getting into that at all." But also, I think you have an issue here: has President Trump committed any crime? Is there any reason? Do they have any probable cause to look at his income tax and such outside an attempt to basically try to embarrass him? And until they have something like that, I don't think the courts are going to be at all sympathetic to these witch hunts by members of the opposite party. So that'll be kind of interesting. I mean, if the courts do, in fact, say that Trump has to turn over his previous financial records and such, I mean, that would set a precedent, I think, that would be pretty unpleasant down the line.
Kamala Harris, she's the U.S. Senator from California. I was going to say
Yes.
Congress. U.S. Senator from California.
Yes.
Has been talking a lot lately about getting back into forced busing, which
Basic problem is it's been basically a failure. The whole idea was to try to integrate school systems, and certainly I favor that 100%. But what you ended up doing was busing a lot of black kids into working class neighborhoods, and it just didn't. The whole idea was to kind of try to upgrade the whole educational system, and that just did not work. In Boston, it didn't work well at all, of course. Now, what has worked pretty well is the use of these so-called magnet schools, which I think may have originated in Buffalo, actually, with a judge up there. Now, I'm not certain it originated, but certainly they used them. And that is that you have a school, high school dedicated to the mechanical and industrial arts. You have one dedicated to music and other kinds of art. You have one dedicated, all kinds of focuses you can have. And kids, black, white, wherever they are, can in fact attend the school. And that seems to work pretty well. But the real key to making this kind of forced busing successful, I think, is you have to mix not only black and white and Hispanic and whatever, but you've got to mix economic classes together. And that is pretty hard to do. You bus inner city black kids to the suburban schools, I think you do get some improvement there. But you've got the busing issue, and then the suburbs go nuts. There's all kinds of problems that grow out of that. So I think the forced busing, frankly, generally is seen as not at all successful. And again, I think increasingly you find areas where minorities are concentrated and non-minorities. I don't know who's a non-minority anymore, frankly, concentrated. But they're having a big issue in New York City now because these city schools that are very selective for science and math and such, they don't have many black and Hispanic entrants. But the thing that people are not touching on, of course, they do have a lot of minorities. And those minorities are who, Brian?
I don't know.
You don't know? You weren't listening, Brian. Yes.
Are you saying whites?
No.
African Americans?
No.
Asians?
Asians. Huge number of Asians in those schools. So it's, and what they're trying to do, of course, is force these schools to change their entrance exams. But there are other efforts there to provide tutoring and things for some of these heavily minority schools. Some of these kids can get in, and then that's great. I think that's fine. But again, forcing busing in these kinds of situations, forcing that sort of integration hasn't been very, very useful. So Kamala Harris, I guess she'll have to play around with that a little more.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back and talk state issues with Dr. Bob.
Saturday, it's the grand opening at the Forks Event Center in Wayland. Performing on the brand new 30 by 40-foot concert stage will be two bands starting at 7 p.m. this Saturday. Mort and the Inner-Tubes, followed by the full-scale band, then fireworks starting around 9:45 this Saturday night. Admission is free. Food and drinks will be available, no BYOB or coolers. That's this Saturday at the Forks Event Center in Wayland, conveniently located off State Route 21 in Wayland, 1/10 of a mile from exit 3 off I-390. The parking lot is located off Regelsberger Road.
Back with Dr. Robert A. Heineman, political science professor emeritus, Alfred University. Congressman Tom Reed's gotten support from all the county chairs in the congressional districts.
All the Republican county chairs, all of them had a little statement.
All the GOP chairs, okay.
Yeah. I don't think.
Not the Democrats.
I don't think there are too many Democrats. Yeah.
Sean Hogan didn't endorse Reed.
Well, not that I know of, no. But this is, I think, kind of interesting. It's kind of early in the campaign, but it's showing a united front, and it's not a bad idea. Don't get me wrong. It's just that Congressman Reed is letting everybody know that not only is he a candidate, but he's going to be a pretty tough candidate. So we'll see how it plays out.
Nick Langworthy, the new state Republican chairman. What's the latest there?
Well, he's arguing that they've got to regain control of the New York State government. I assume that means focusing on the Senate. Now, I think I mentioned maybe several programs ago that he was going to remain as Erie County chair as well, but apparently he can't. Apparently the rules say that if you're going to be state chair, you can't hold a county chair position as well. So what I saw was that he was looking at having his wife take that position. I don't know what they're doing up in Erie County there in any case, but he's pushing this grassroots, ground level effort to revive the Republican Party, which is kind of interesting in light of what he did in the 57th District, and that is simply tried to co-opt and did co-opt most of the county chairs and ignore any effort at a primary, but which we had a primary anyway, and then they poured thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into Chautauqua County to carry the race. So they're sending the message out that if you want to run, you can expect this kind of treatment, and it's hardly a grassroots effort, it seems to me, from Langworthy or the state Senate Republicans. So I think in terms of taking control of the state Senate, you've got a number of issues that are extraneous, frankly, to the races there, and one of them is what Governor Cuomo's going to do. I can see Governor Cuomo wanting very much to have a Democrat majority in the state Senate, because even if he doesn't run in 2020 for president, he could well think about running in 2024. And so having a solid Democrat majority across the state government seems to me would be much in his favor. And so if he kicks in this Senate race this coming year, the Democrats are going to be very, very tough to beat. And the point is, this is the last chance the Republicans have, because in 2020, of course, we will be redistricting the state of New York, and I believe the state of New York will be losing at least 2 congressmen, and they won't be losing any state senators or assembly people, of course, but obviously the switches in the population and such will certainly mean there'll have to be some districts redrawn there. And if the Democrats are in control of the state Senate and control of the assembly, those districts, as we've said before, will be drawn so the Republicans will never get a majority, not in our lifetime anyway, in either one of those chambers. So it's kind of interesting.
Well, Dr. Bob, we're out of time. I want to thank you so much for stopping by.
Well, thank you, Brian, and I'll be checking your sneakers as we walk out.